Hello, and welcome to our course on mastering the use of the MISP platform. I am Gabriele Gamberi, and I am a cybersecurity and fraud analyst working for Certvin. I have several years of experience in information sharing and threat intelligence activities, which allowed me to master the use of the MISP. In this regard, today I'm here to share with you some insights and knowledge concerning the use of this powerful open source solution. To make sure that we have a structured learning experience, we have divided the course in two distinct sections. First of all, we have the core segment, which is the focal point of our exploration. In this section, we'll cover the fundamental aspects of the MISP platform, and this involves a step-by-step guidance on the installation, user creation, and various functionalities that revolve around the creation of events, the related sharing, and much more. Consider this segment as the essential building block for developing your proficiency in using MISP. Next is the miscellaneous and the troubleshooting section. Here we talk about extra functionalities that enriches and complements the core aspects about MISP and address common issues that we can encounter while using the platform. To enhance your learning process, we have included timestamps for each section. This way, you can navigate directly to the topics that matter most to you. So, without further ado, let's dive into the contents of the MISP course. In this tutorial, we're going to understand how to install the MISP platform. MISP stands for Malware Information Sharing Platform, and it is a collaborative cybersecurity tool used by organizations to collect, share, and analyze information related to malware and other security and even privacy threats. And it facilitates the exchange of threat intelligence, allowing a community to better defend against cyber attacks by sharing insights, indicators of compromise, and other relevant data. With that being said, in order to install the MISP platform, we should refer to the MISP project's official installation guide. In this page, you'll find a list of compatible servers from which you can select a base to run the MISP. It is strongly suggested to use Ubuntu version 22.04. So we're going to select it, but before moving on, make sure to download the server image from the official website, which I already did. So to install a new server, I'm going to use VMware, but you can also use other virtualization software, such as VirtualBox. Let's now create a new virtual machine, select the disk image, give it a name and a location where to create this machine. In terms of sizing, there are many parameters that should be considered before deciding a disk size, along with the number of CPUs. Some of these parameters include the number of users, the volume of data, number of events, queries, correlations, and much more. So the sizing highly depends on how the MISP instance will be used. Small sharing hubs can use 20 to 25 gigabyte, while larger communities may require even 100 to 800 gigabyte of disk space and from 2 to 32 CPU cores. For this tutorial, we're going to select 25 giga. But if you want to use this instance for a production environment, please make sure to understand what are your requirements and perform the sizing accordingly. FYI, the correlations of attributes are generally the most memory and computation intensive. So we suggest either increasing the memory and CPU available if you want to keep this enabled. Otherwise, you can disable the correlation flag within the MISP instance. So let's hit on next. Here we can find a recap of the settings. Here we can use either a NAT for the network adapter or a bridged network. It's totally up to you. Click on Finish. Now I'm going to skip some automated scripts. Let's select the language, skip the updates in case we can still do that later. Choose the keyboard layout, hit on Done until we get to the profile setup. Let's provide the username and password to log in into the system. Skip for now the updates for Ubuntu Pro. Now make sure to install the OpenSSH package, because later in the tutorial it's going to be useful to have a remote access to the MISP server. Skip this part. Click on Done. Now it's time to wait for the installation to complete. And once done that, the system will prompt us the username and password. So let's input the username. Oops, still loading some stuff. When you reach to the last entry called Cloud Init, just click on Enter, and the system will ask you for the password. So now we're logged in, and what we need is to determine the IP address of the machine so that we can remotely access to it. Because the problem is that by default, the virtual machine will not allow to perform copy and paste within the terminal, and theoretically we still need to install the MISP core components. So let's determine the IP address. Let's have a SSH connection, same username and password. Now back to the guide. We need to install the MISP core. So copy and paste the install script and run the bash command. It's going to take a while even here, so I guess we can skip until the end of the script. And there we are. Now we are actually ready to use the MISP platform. To do that, we only need to provide the server IP address in the browser. And there we are. This is the login page of the platform. So here we can use the MISP default credentials, which is the admin at admin.test and admin as a password. Here we have our first access. The platform will require us to change the password, so make sure to make it complex, otherwise the system will ask you to do so. Back to home. And here you can find all the events shared within the platform. Of course, this is now empty, as we have just concluded our clean installation. But throughout the training, we're going to show you how to populate the platform and leverage many other features. Before moving on, I want to show you very quickly that the script that we ran earlier successfully updated the platform to the latest release, as you can see here. So we're good to go. In this section, we're going to learn how to enable a user to access the platform via a browser. This setting is known as MISP as a service. To get started, a user should ask an org admin to set up a new user account on the platform. If the user comes from an external organization, he should supply the following information to the administrator. But let's imagine we are the actual administrator of the instance, and we just received this request of creating an account for a user from organization A. Let's go under the administration menu and click on Add User. We now need to populate the form with the data we have just received. When you choose the Set Password option in this context, you can promptly create a password for the user. Alternatively, you can also select the Send Credentials Automatically option, which will generate a password for the user and send an email to the address you have just entered. To enable the platform to send emails, it is crucial to configure a mail transfer agent appropriately. If you take a look at the agenda, you can directly jump to the tutorial section where we provide some quick basic information on this matter. Now, let's set the password. As for this drop-down list, it enables you to choose an organization to which the user belongs. We select Organization A. Now, the user roles essentially determines the privileges assigned to each user. We highly recommend consulting the official documentation, as they provide plenty of information about privileges, which you can even customize according to your needs. As for now, we want to designate this user to be a regular user. Click on Create User. Here we are. A new user has been successfully created. Let's quickly check if the login is working properly. Perfect. Now the user is prompted to enter a new password, and there we have it. It appears that the org admin has posted a notice about a service maintenance. If we return to the home page, we can view all the events present on the MISP instance. So this is how the MISP as a service works. Now we're ready to move on to the next tutorial. In this tutorial, we are going to learn the basic structure of a MISP event and how to create one. When you log in into the MISP, you will be directed to the home page, where you will be able to see a list of events with some metadata. The first column shows the data producer, that is, the creator of the event, whereas the second column indicates the organization that created the event locally in our instance. But this information is only available to site admins, but it is not exactly useful. Next, there is the event ID, which is a local identification number that allows to reference specific events, which may contain information about threats, incidents, and other security and privacy related data. In MISP, the events typically have two types of IDs. The local ID, which is the one that I already mentioned, that is incremental, and the UUID, which remain consistent across instances. This means that if you know the UUID of an event, you can go to different instances, input the UUID, and check if they have the same event. Following that, you will see a list of clusters and tags. For instance, this event has an attack pattern that relates to a spear phishing attachment with a traffic light protocol that is white. So this information can be released to the public. But actually, the TLP white refers to an old protocol because now we have the TLP version 2. But later on in this course, we will see how to update this taxonomy and enable new ones. Overall, the clusters and tags help contextualize the data that are reported within the event, and this could also be useful for searching and filtering events. Then we have the number of attributes that are contained in the event, the quantity of correlations, and the email address of the creator, which is typically not accessible to regular users. Then we have the info field, that is basically the title of the event. And lastly, we have the distribution that indicates how the event gets to be propagated among MISP instances. Let's click on Add Event on the side menu. When you create an event, you get a UI that starts creating the container itself for the first time. And as you can see, the form is quite straightforward. You just need to specify a suggested date, which could be the date of a report or a sandbox execution, or in general, the date of occurrence of a certain event. Next, there is the distribution setting, which determines how MISP instances can access and retrieve the data. This organization only means that only my organization have access to this event, so the visibility of the event is confined within our perimeter. With this community only, everyone connected to our instance can see the event. With connected communities, everyone on all directly connected instances can see it. Basically, the event propagates 2 hops away from the organization who created it. And with all communities, the event becomes visible to everyone. This action shares the event across all MISP communities, enabling it to propagate freely from one server to another. Theoretically, the MISP also allows to share an event to sharing groups. And these are customizable groups that include organizations and communities participating in sharing. And this gives you the flexibility in choosing your sharing method. In fact, there are cases where you might want to share events only to specific partners. For instance, if someone is involved in an incident and you don't want anyone else to know about it. If it's not the case, you might share the event with everyone in a community. Currently, this feature is not enabled as we don't have any sharing groups set up in our instance, but later in the course we are going to see how to create a sharing group. Next, there are 2 key fields. One is the threat level, which is pretty straightforward as the platform also provides a description that describes what each entry means. And the other field is the status of the analysis. This is some kind of courtesy field saying that you can be at the initial state of the analysis, or you're currently working on it, or you have completed the analysis. So select the one that better reflects the event that you are sharing. As for the event info field, it is the most crucial one. It is basically the field where you describe the issue at hand. And it is essential to keep this description concise and avoid the technical jargon. Different communities may have varying level of technical expertise, so it is important to be as universally understandable as possible here. Let's just write test alert. The extends events means that this event might provide additional information related to another event. In such cases, you should include the UUID of the event you are extending. Let's now create our event. Currently, the event is empty. there are absolutely no attributes nor objects contained within. But it has some pre-filled metadata that are based on what we have just done. Basically, this is our starting point. To populate the event, we have a lot of different options. We have the free text input, the manual input, templates, and MISP objects. In the upcoming sections, we will be describing each one of these features, so stay tuned. If you're looking to provide a long list of IOCs within MISP, you can use the free text input tool, which is found under Populate From. Or if we scroll down to the bottom of the page, we can find this button. Here you can basically paste any text you have, and MISP will attempt to automatically identify its content. Let's imagine that we want to share these IOCs that are separated by line breaks. Because many different combinations of categories and types can be suitable for various values, MISP will recommend the most frequently used configurations. If you don't agree with the suggested category, type, or IDS fields, you can adjust them manually. After you've made all the changes you want, you can submit the attributes. MISP will then generate these attributes within the event. Just make sure to refresh the page. And here they are. If you want more control over what you input, you can manually enter attributes. Even here, you can click on Add Attribute on the left side, or you can scroll down and click the plus button. A menu will appear where you can select the category, type, and other details. Let's copy and paste an IOC, just an example. Be mindful that while this method provides better control, it might be seen as time-consuming, especially if you need to enter multiple indicators. So it's a trade-off between control and speed, depending on your specific needs. However, here there is the chance to perform a batch input, in a way that you can paste attributes that share commonalities, and they pretty much do the same job of the text input tool. Let's flag that this IOC is meant to be ingested in an intrusion detection system, rule set. If it's not flagged, it means that this IOC can be useful only for contextualization. Another way to enter attributes is to use MISP objects. An object is basically a combination of two or more attributes that are contextually linked. For instance, if we have a malicious executable, it means that we are dealing with a file. So information like the file name, size, hash, a sample of it, it can be represented within the same object, as such information are contextually linked. To add an object, we can either use the menu on the left, or scroll down and click on this button, next to the plus sign. So, in our example, we want to share information concerning a file. Of course, if you hover the info icon, the MISP will give you a description of each object. Now we need to provide some data. For some objects, there might be attributes that require to be set. In this file object, there are no required attributes. Let's copy and paste some indicators. Here, MISP provides a summary of the data we have just entered. Let's click on Create New Object. Scroll down and you can see the newly created objects. We can clearly see how the data we provided are linked together and aggregated within the same object. Another method to enter attributes is to use the templates. Templates allow you to quickly populate events of a specific type by filling out predefined fields. So let's see how it works. Let's click on Populate From using a template. And these are built-in templates that MISP already provide. But there are also the chance to create new templates to better guide the user while providing data. But only users that have certain privileges can customize new templates. Once you have chosen a template, let's say indicator list, you'll see the form associated with it. It's essential to complete as many fields as you can, especially those with a star, as they are mandatory. Templates are divided into sections, each with a title, description, and a set of fields. Let's copy and paste some indicators. Some in the network section, and the others in the file indicators. Here we have a recap of what we have just entered. Click on Finalize, and as you can see, we add new attributes within the event. Once we have entered all the indicators, the next logical step is to publish the event. To do so, what we need to do is to press the Publish Event. That not only it will share the event according to the distribution setting, but it will also send out an email to all the organizations that are intended to receive such event. If you don't want to send out an email, you can simply click on Publish No Email. Press yes. Let's refresh the page, and there you go. The event has been published. Currently, we set the distribution to your organization only, so the propagation of the event will remain within the perimeter of your own organization. If you want to change it, you can always do that by clicking on Edit Event. But be mindful that when you make edits, the MISP essentially unpublish the entire event. So remember to always republish the event after making your changes. If you want to share an event without your organization being tied to the event itself, you can delegate the publication to another organization. This also means that they will take the ownership of the event. MISP offers such a feature to safeguard the privacy of the reporting organizations in situations like when you're sharing an incident report that should not be associated with a potential victim, or if you want to prevent any linkage between your organization and the shared information. To do so, you first need to make sure that the current user that is sharing the event has the permission to do so. For instance, if you're an org admin or a publisher. Lastly, we need to enable the MISP delegation parameter within the current instance. To do so, we need to navigate to Administration, Server Setting and Maintenance, MISP tab, and modify this flag to True. Once done that, there might be the chance that the delegation option might still not be available. And the reason is that we also need to set the distribution of the event to your organization only, which we already did. After that, we can click on Delegate Publishing and a pop-up will show up. Here you can choose to which organization you wish to delegate the event among all those registered on the server. For this example, we're going to ask Organization B to publish the event for us. As for the desired distribution, this option allows you to suggest to the delegated organization what is the right distribution for this event. So you can either let the recipient organization to choose, if you don't mind it, or suggest the distribution that you want to set. But it is only a suggestion, and the recipient will be able to modify the diffusion setting if wanted. For this example, we will request the recipient to decide. Finally, you can leave a free message to the recipient and press yes. Suppose you come across an event owned by an organization and you disagree with some of its attributes. In this case, you may initiate a proposal for change. Let's take this event as an example. So, let's say that this hash is actually related to a genuine executable, and it is not meant to be used for intrusion detection systems. We can propose this change by clicking on Proposal, located on the right side of this attribute. At first, we can deflag this option, and in case we might provide a comment that explains why we consider this hash as legitimate. This action generates a proposal, which is indicated by an orange marker. As you can see here, the MISP have made the changes in the IDS flag. The creator of this event will then have the option to either agree or disagree with your proposal. Since we are side admins and we are the actual owner of this event, we directly see these two options as enabled. So once we have assessed that this change is actually reasonable, we can choose to accept the proposal, and the attributes will be modified accordingly. Now, since the event has changed, the MISP actually tells us that this attribute has not been published yet. Therefore, we might need to republish the entire event. Sometimes it might be useful to contact the person or the organization that created a certain event, perhaps to ask for more information about it or to discuss more sensitive information related, for instance, to an incident. This can be achieved thanks to the Contact a Reporter feature. To use this feature, we need to access an event and click on Contact a Reporter. This will bring up a view where you can enter your message. By default, the message will be sent as an email to every member of the organization that has posted the event. But if you tick the checkbox below, only the person that created the event will receive your message. It's important to note that if the reporter decides to reply, their contact details will be shared. So that's pretty much it for this lesson. In this section, we are going to explore how to search for specific events and how to search for attributes. Let's begin with the events. To find certain events, we need to use the filter located in the top right corner of the event list. You can filter events based on various metadata. In particular, given a certain keyword, you can filter by event info, all fields, ID, UUID, and tags. These allow you to search for events based on the following: event title, all the fields, identification numbers, or context. For instance, let's say we want to find events containing the word phishing in their titles. When we perform this search, MISP will display a list of events where the event info field contains the specific keyword, even though they don't have the phishing tag attached to it. Whereas if you're looking for events with the phishing tag, you can directly click on this circle taxonomy for phishing or use the filter. In case, we can also use the UUID of an event. Simply enter it here and adjust the filter to ID UUID. Apart from being able to search for specific events, it is also possible to search for data contained in the value field of an attribute. Attributes in MISP can be network indicators, system indicators, or even bank account details. To search for attributes, we need to click on the Search Attributes button. This will open a form where you can enter one or more search terms, which should be line break separated. So you can search for attributes that contain specific expressions, tags that are related to certain event IDs or shared by specific organizations. Let's say we want to find attributes within a particular event. Here we can use the same UUID we had before. Click on Search. And in this section, you will see a list of results that includes all the attributes matching our search criteria. You can also choose to export these results in various standard formats, which can be easily imported in our security tools. In this lesson, I've given you a brief introduction to the fundamental concepts of searching for events and attributes in MISP. However, for any additional details, please refer to the MISP documentation, where you can dive into more advanced searching techniques. In this section, we are going to explore the process of synchronizing two MISP instances, where one will act as a consumer and the other one as a producer, but we can also achieve the vice versa. Having a MISP to MISP integration allows both instances to communicate with each other and exchange relevant threat intelligence that can be seamlessly integrated with security platforms, such as CM and intrusion prevention system. Before establishing this connection, we first need to add the organization from which we want to retrieve the events. We'll call it Organization B. To do this, we need to follow these steps. Navigate to the administration menu and select Add Organization. Start by providing a name for the organization. The UUID is basically the unique identifier. If you plan to share this organization between different MISP instances, we recommend to use the same UUID for consistency. Then, there are some optional fields available for providing additional context about the organization. These fields are relatively self-explanatory. Once you have filled in the necessary information, click on Submit to save your changes. Now we are ready to synchronize the two MISP instances. Let's imagine that we are Organization A and we want to pull the events from Organization B. Let's go under the Sync Action menu and click on Remote Servers. So currently we don't have any active connection. To create one, we need to click on New Servers. The page now will show a set of parameters that we need to configure. To establish a connection with Organization B server, you need the following information from the Organization B itself. The base URL of the server that you wish to synchronize with. This can be a URL or an IP address. Next, you will require an authentication key to enable the interaction with the Organization B server. Optionally, if Organization B operates its own signing authority, you may also request the server certificate file. This is not mandatory, but it can be beneficial for added security. Let's use this information in our setup. Copy and paste the base URL into the designated field. Assign a name to this instance. For example, you can label it as orgb MISP instance. Choose the organization from your local organization pool. Copy and paste the auth key into the appropriate field. Now, let's configure the synchronization options. You can choose either the pull or push option, or even a combination of both. The push mechanism provides near real-time data transfer, pushing data to orgb MISP instance as soon as it is created. or an event is created. However, for this scenario, we want to retrieve data from organization B. So let's select the pull option. Regarding the other settings, you may need to check the allow self-signed certificate if organization B instance uses a self-signed certificate. Skip proxy enables a direct connection to the server without using a proxy host. In the client server certificate file field, you can upload the appropriate file if required. The push and pull rules let you define filtering rules for the data to be transferred. For instance, you can use tags like the TLP to filter the data that you wish to pull. Once you have configured these settings, click on Submit. We have now created a remote server. However, to ensure that you can successfully retrieve events from the server, let's have a connection test. The remote server will provide a feedback on the local and remote version of the respective MISPs, confirming their compatibility and reachability. We have previously mentioned that, by default, the MISP platform is not configured to send emails to MISP users. So, in this tutorial we're going to install and configure Postfix, which is a mail transfer agent for email routing and delivery. As always, let's connect to the MISP server and launch the following command to install Postfix. Select Internet Site. Here we need to provide the domain name. Let's imagine it's MISP instance. So I'm just going to press OK. Let's clear the interface. Now, we need to access the Postfix configuration, which is located in the following path. Within this file, we're going to find the parameters that control the operation of the mail system. There are two main important parameters that need to be set. The My Destination, where we need to provide our host name, which is already present, and the Relay Host, where we need to provide the mail server to which routing all outgoing mails. The format for this entry could be the following. Keep in mind that if the mail server belongs to an external organization, we also need to ask to set up a proper SPF record. Make sure that you save the file once you've made all the necessary changes. Okay, you might need to enable Postfix and start it or restart it using the following utilities. There is one last thing that we need to take care of, which is to set up some parameters directly within the MISP platform. So let's navigate to Administration and Service Settings and Maintenance and locate the following settings. These are important because they respectively allow the following. The first one defines the email address that MISP should use for all notifications. The second parameter enables the emailing system in MISP. And the last one, set the rate of the email alerts that a certain event can generate after clicking Publish. So it is up to you to choose the right values for each one of these parameters. For example, I'll tell the platform to generate emails to appear as though the sender is info admin test. I want to enable the emailing by setting this flag to false. And finally, adjust the notification threshold to a high number. So that's it for this tutorial. There is a feature in MISP that allows site admins to publish news of the platform. This allows to disseminate updates and announcements that are visible to the community that access the platform. This could be useful to communicate information such as upcoming updates that may require a brief interruption of the MISP service. Let's see how we can do that. We need to navigate to Global Actions and News, then click on Add New Item. At this point, we need to input the message we intend to publish. Simply copy and paste some text. And here you also have the options to create news anonymously, which means that you can keep the identity of the creator hidden, ensuring that no user-related information is disclosed. Click on Submit. Great. Now, let's log in as a regular user to verify whether the news has been correctly published. I'll log in as a user from a different organization. As you can see, the first thing that the user encounters upon logging in is the news we have just published. In the past tutorials, we have seen how to publish an event by choosing a certain distribution method that allows to propagate the event towards other MISP instances. The MISP also provides the option to create sharing groups, which offers a more granular approach to build distribution lists. Such lists enable users to include both local and external organizations for sharing information. There are two main use cases for creating a sharing group. First of all, they are quite handy for creating subgroups that are focused on specific topics. For example, you might want to share threat intelligence regarding a ransomware attack only to the cybersecurity departments of your community. Or you can share fraud indicators only to the anti-fraud departments. Secondly, they prove beneficial in ad hoc sharing situations, like when multiple organizations need to collaborate on specific incidents. To create a sharing group, you first need to be a user that has the sharing group editor permission. Once you have this permission, you can navigate to Global Actions and add sharing group. You'll be presented with a general page that contains a bunch of fields. First of all, we have the name, which is a unique identifier for the sharing group. Let's call it Community A. The releasable to, it's a human-readable description indicating with whom the data can be shared. But MISP doesn't actively use this field. It's primarily informative for external organizations that are connected to the sharing group. Let's say members or organizations of Community A. The description is the field that contains an explanation of the sharing group's purpose. Let's write that this community is focused on cybersecurity aspects. And lastly, we have the make the sharing group selectable. By checking or unchecking this option, you can control whether the sharing group is active or passive. If a sharing group is marked as active, the sharing group will be listed as an option when choosing the distribution setting for events or attributes. So let's keep it this way. Then we have the organizations page, which represents the distribution list of all the organizations that are part of this sharing group. So let's add a new local organization to be part of it. Select Organization B, move it to the right side and click on Add. Now, in the distribution list, we have two selected organizations. You may notice the extended checkmark option, which, when selected, designates the chosen organization as an extender of the sharing group, which allows trusted partners to modify the sharing group. For instance, when it comes to sharing information with different industries, it's often challenging to identify all the relevant recipients. Delegating the ability to extend the event to a trusted representative from that sector enabled someone with better knowledge to identify and include the appropriate partners in the sharing group. For now, let's keep it the way it is. The third page provides information about the MISP instances that are enabled to synchronize data with the specified sharing group. The Enable Roaming mode will disable the server list and rely purely on the organization list to distribute the data. So this removes the need to know the specific instance URL where the event should flow. Once all configurations are in place, MISP will provide a summary of the sharing group in a highlighted text page. It is strongly recommended to carefully review this summary before finalizing the creation or editing of the sharing group. Once done that, let's click on Submit. Now, the sharing group has been created, but the events won't be propagated towards that group until we select the right distribution mechanism for a certain event. In fact, every time we create a new event, we have the distribution setting that contains the sharing group option. And from there, we can select our newly created community. So, by the time you publish this event, it will only be propagated to the recipients that are part of that specific community. In this tutorial, we are going to explore the process of enabling MISP taxonomies, which allow to classify your events, whether they are related to cybersecurity, fraud, or privacy issues. A taxonomy is essentially a structured set of labels that are used to categorize and manage information in a consistent manner. They also facilitate the adoption of a shared vocabulary among users and organizations. In the context of MISP and other information sharing tools, these taxonomies are represented as machine tags, commonly known as triple tags, because they comprise three components. The first two are the namespace and the predicate, which are mandatory, and the value, which is optional. So let's see how taxonomies are enabled and integrated in MISP. Let's say that we want to enable the TLP taxonomy, which is not currently visible within the event. To do this, we need to go to the Event Actions and List Taxonomies. Here, MISP admins can select the specific namespace they want to use as tags. Once we locate the TLP taxonomy, we can enable it by clicking on the arrow under the Action tab and confirming with OK. Now, the tags are active, but we still need to enable all of them. I will also add that a taxonomy can be set to highlighted, as you can see from this checkbox. If we flag this checkbox, it allows the namespace to appear in a visible box within the event, even though the namespace is not set yet. This makes it easier to add a tag to an event because it functions as a reminder. The taxonomy can also be set as required, meaning that an event will not be published unless it is tagged with at least one tag of the required taxonomy, but it is up to you to choose the desired configuration. So returning to the event, you can see that we have successfully enabled the TLP taxonomy, from which we can select the value that better contextualizes the event. And now we're going to learn how to import a private MISP taxonomy. To include a private taxonomy, we should follow the specific commands that are outlined in the official MISP guide. First of all, we need to navigate to the taxonomy directory on our server and create a new one. Before making this video, I have created a new taxonomy called Security and Privacy. So creating a taxonomy is as simple as creating a JSON file following the triple tags that we discussed previously. Such tags consist of predicates and values. To demonstrate, here you can find a basic structure for creating a custom taxonomy. Copy and paste your taxonomy, save it, return to your taxonomy list and click on Update. You'll notice that the MISP has successfully added our taxonomy, placing it at the top of the list. However, the active tags are currently disabled, so we need to enable the taxonomy and the tags. Let's now navigate back to our event, refresh the page, and you will now find your private taxonomy available, from which we can select any tag we want. The goal of this tutorial is to customize our login page. To get started, log in as an admin, and then go to Administration and Server Setting and Maintenance. From there, select Manage Files. Towards the bottom of this page, you'll find a section called Additional Image Files. Here, we will upload a couple of images, one for our login page logo and another for the header and footer of our platform. These images will be positioned at the top left and bottom right corners of the UI, respectively. It's important to note that since the background is black, I've chosen a white logo to ensure its visibility. Now, let's proceed with uploading our file. After uploading the images, the next step is to configure the parameter within the MISP tab to ensure that the platform references the correct files. Start by locating the footer logo and enter the file name. Repeat the same process for the home page and the main logo, which is the logo displayed on the login page. Additionally, you may also need to update the footer mid-left and mid-right settings, which correspond to the text that is displayed at the very bottom of this UI. Now, let's make changes to the welcome text. After refreshing the page, you will notice that the header and the footer logos are now visible. Now, let's return to the login page, and as you can see, the changes are in effect. It is plausible that not all the information that are displayed are interesting to the user. For this reason, it's preferable to customize your homepage as to not display unwanted events. To modify your homepage, the user should click on Administration in the top menu and then select Set Settings. After clicking on that, the user will see a form where they need to select Homepage. At this point, the user should enter the value in the value field, specifying the path to the new homepage for the user. To display only events associated with a specific tag, you need to input the following string in the value field. Then you need to replace the X with the value associated with the tag of our interest. Let's assume we want to view events that are tagged with TLP amber plus strict. So let's go to the tag section. Copy the ID and paste it back to the axis. Finally, you need to click the Submit button to apply the change. If we now click on the home page, we will see that the events have indeed been filtered to display only those with the TLP Amber Plus Strict. It is possible that a certain user might want to receive notifications that refer to only specific type of events, for instance, only those related to cybersecurity. The MISP platform allows to manage the reception of emails by setting up filters. To do that, we need to click on Administration and then select Set User Setting. At this point, the user will see a new screen and must ensure that the drop-down menu labeled Setting displays Publish Alert Filter. The value text field must contain the filter, which should be provided in a JSON format. The filter can be applied to the following, which include the tags, the publish organization, and the threat level. In this specific case, we aim to receive events that don't have the tag TLP clear or TLP green. Now, after applying the configuration of the TLP, you will see the publish filter in this page. Now, every time your community is publishing an alert that is either TLP Amber, Amber Plus Strict, or Red, then you will receive a notification in your inbox. However, you can do a lot more with these filters. What I've just described is the method for setting these configurations. So I hope this can be helpful for your purposes. In this section, we're going to see how to enable the default MISP feeds. But before we do that, let's clarify what is a MISP feed. Essentially, a feed acts as a data source, containing indicators that can be automatically integrated into your MISP platform at scheduled intervals. MISP already comes with a predefined configuration that includes a collection of public OSINT feeds. It provides different sets of open source IOCs, such as network indicators like IP addresses, then file hashes, domain names, and so on, which can be employed in your security infrastructure to detect potential security threats. The process of enabling such feeds is quite straightforward. We need to navigate to Sync Actions, then Feeds. Then we need to select all the default MISP feeds, and we enable them by clicking on Enable Selected. Now, we can either wait for the MISP to start fetching all the related events, but we can also force it to do that by clicking on this button. Once done that, it will be launched a scheduled task that will take care of pulling the events in our instance, as you can see here in this page. Welcome to the final session of our training course on the MISP platform. Today, we're concluding our journey by highlighting some common issues that organizations may encounter when using the platform and how we can fix them. We are not going to dive into the details of every single problem. Instead, we believe that this table can serve as a quick reference to address several issues. So, the user can pause the video and take their time to navigate through this table. Keep in mind that the issues reported here are not exhaustive. Instead, they represent the most recurrent and significant issues based on our experience as a hub for information sharing within the Italian financial sector. Now, the first column broadly categorizes these errors, while the second column delves into the potential reasons behind encountering such challenges. Essentially, we are diving into finer details, revealing subcases. Some of these subcases are displayed as error messages directly in the platform, while others represent generic factors, under which we have documented the navigation menus where the user can then apply the related solution. Such solutions are reported in the final column and are crafted from years of hands-on experience, so we believe that they can guide you towards an effective resolution of the problem at hand. With that said, thank you very much for your participation throughout this training course, and I wish you continued success in your journey of information sharing.